else to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Today I want to talk to you guys about the struggle of coming up with a tag name as a new graffiti artist. Some things to look out for, and some of the worst reasons you could possibly change your name. Now, if you find yourself in this position, if you heard me say that and you went, man, that sounds like me, I'm that graffiti artist who's struggling to find a name. Well, check this out. Not only do I have this video up here that helps you go ahead and kind of learn how to come up with a tag name, but I asked the community over on YouTube and on Instagram to throw me a list of a bunch of different tag names that I then went ahead and compiled into a list of over 200 names. None of these are legends, and you can pick from any of them in order to make a tag name of your own. So, getting into this topic, one of the first things a lot of graffiti artists struggle with is coming up with something that connects with them. They kind of almost get this paralysis where they feel like they need to find the absolute perfect name, otherwise they won't even start doing graffiti. And I honestly feel like your first name is something that you don't have to think too hard about. Just pick something, no matter what it is. Even if you don't feel like it really sticks, just pick something so like that you have a name to start with. Most new graffiti artists, and experienced people will agree with this, a lot of new graffiti artists change their name after a couple of years. Oftentimes what you'll see is you'll see somebody start up in graffiti, they'll kind of do it for, 2-3 years, maybe even 4 years, and then they'll change their name to something new. The reason they do this is because they spend their first couple of years learning the art form, getting their feet wet, and becoming accustomed to graffiti as a whole. And once they feel that they've gotten used to how graffiti works, then they go ahead and pick something they're a little bit more serious with. So really, in actuality, when you look at it that way, you have a good 3-4 years to pick a name, because nobody's taking you seriously in these early days. Now, obviously, that's not always the case. Obviously, some people pick one name and they stick with that throughout their entire time. For sure, definitely that happens. But the point being, you don't have to overthink picking a name. Another issue a lot of new graffiti artists run into is they feel like, man, this name is impossible to work with. I can't flow, I can't do this, the letter structures are hard, the negative space management sucks, the weight sucks. But understand something, that's what it means to be a graffiti artist. Obviously, other than getting up and doing your thing and having fun with the art form, the other side of it is learning the name and putting the time and dedication into it, putting the work into it in order to actually learn the name. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter what name you choose, you're gonna suck with all of them. That's just the truth of the matter. But that's also where the fun comes in. The fun comes in that discovery on how your name works. And yeah, sure, while it is true certain names are good at doing certain things and they find a more difficult time working with other fundamentals, the truth of it is every name can do anything you want, provided you understand the fundamentals. But you have to get to that point first. So every name is gonna suck in your hands. It doesn't matter which one you pick. And it's for that reason I always say, don't change your name because it's hard. That is by far the worst reason to change your name. If you're changing your name because you find it difficult, well, at that point you don't really have the mentality in the right place. You need to kind of understand that you're going to have difficulty with any name. Just focus on having a good time. Could you imagine if I changed my name Grim because I found it difficult? I gotta be 100% honest with you guys. Back when I used to work at the shop, I used to meet plenty of graffiti artists from all over the world. Even some graffiti legends who I would personally ask, hey, can you help me with my name Grim? I can't tell you how many people told me to change my name because it's impossible to flow. No disrespect to any of those people. Every name flows. Every single name. I don't care if you give me a name that's half Hyrulean text and half Egyptian hieroglyphics, we can still make that name flow. So the fact that people, some world-class graffiti artists were telling me that my name is impossible to flow is ridiculous. The issue is never the name, and that's the key thing to understand. The issue is always you as the artist. So if you started up in graffiti and you feel like you're not struggling with your name, trust me, you are struggling, you just haven't realized your mistakes just yet. That's really what's happening, because no name should be easy for you. You know what's something else I actually see? Some intermediate graffiti artists and even some advanced graffiti artists, they kind of fall into this thing where they become bored of their name and become tired of it. And some people go to the extent where they feel like they need to change it entirely. But here's the thing, you don't ever have to change your name. There's this weird fascination in graffiti where a lot of graffiti artists think, I can only do my name in graffiti and that's it. I'm not allowed to do other words. But no, I mean, you can do other words in graffiti. Just because you have a tag name doesn't mean that's the only name you can do. But you know where that kind of thinking stems from? It stems from the fact that they spent so much time invested in that one individual name that they feel like they're good at that name. Understandably so, they should be. So when they go ahead and they try a different name, it's not up to snuff, it's not to their satisfaction, and they feel like it's not as high quality, so they kind of give up on that and they don't want to do other names because they're afraid of failing with those other names. And as a result, what do? They go back to what they're comfortable with, they go back to their comfort zone and do their same name over and over again, which then results in them getting bored, and then they feel pressured to go ahead and change something super dramatic and just completely leave behind their old name. But let yourself fail. It doesn't matter if you suck with a different name. I'll actually give you guys a bit of an example. I only ever really used Grim in graffiti. Yeah, I did graffiti since I was really young, and back then I played around with different names, none of which were really all that serious, but I used names like Mute, which was a lot of fun, and I sucked with it. I was abysmal with the name. I was garbage with it. I even used the alias, funnily enough, because I thought the letters kind of worked well together, and that was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed alias. I also played around with the name Rook. I loved the name Rook, and in fact, that was actually going to be my tag name instead of Grim. The only reason, you guys know how I came up with the name Grim at this point, it's not news to anybody, but the only reason I stayed with Grim was because it was kind of bestowed onto me. But if it wasn't for that, I 100% would be writing Rook. I even, when I was really young, I played around with the name Fungus, like the actual mold. And as much as I sucked with that name, it was a lot of fun as well. I mean, it was goofy, it was stupid, it was silly, and it was just a good time overall. Like, there's nothing wrong with playing around with stupid ideas just for the sake of having a good time. My main tag name is Dr. Grim, or, you know, Grim 1. Those three are pretty much all the same, and that's my main name. I don't have to change that in order to play around with other things. I think a lot of graffiti artists get very hung up in this whole entire being perceived as a toy, right? They don't want to have that stigma, but it's not really all that much of a stigma. You'll be surprised. Even back in the day, people didn't really care if you were a toy. And I say that meaning, like, if your head was in the right place, if you were a chill dude, and people met you and they saw that you were just enjoying the art form, you were having a good time, and you had respect for other people, no one cared if you were a toy, because they understood that's where everybody starts. The only time people really cares if anybody is a toy is if they're kind of, you know, disrespectful in general. Or if you stayed a toy and you kind of feel like you're not, and you suffer, and as a result you suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect, which admittedly there's plenty of those people out there, but that's neither here nor there for this conversation. In short, I don't think new graffiti artists should really stress too much about picking a name, especially their first name. Just pick something so like that you start, and have fun with it, play around with it, enjoy yourself. But that pretty much wraps up today's video. Dudes, if you want to go ahead and find yourself a name in graffiti, check out the secret page on my website in the description down below, and if you want to add to that list, drop a couple tag names in the comments down below as well. Now, if you've been struggling to learn graffiti and you want to make that process a lot easier, check out the books I published in the description as well, and check out the best how to do graffiti playlist right here, along with more graffiti content right down here. And I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.